Welcome everyone to our dinner table seminar. This is our dinner table concept, the war on entitlement. I'm Nick Hopwood with Peak Wealth Management, and I'm joined by, guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Jim Pilot.
And I'm Preston Gee.
And we are your team of CFPs here at Peak Wealth Management. The last time we did a webinar, it was like March of 2020 when everything was shut down. So we did a webinar for our clients talking about the markets and talking about the coronavirus. And my joke was, hey guys, I saw Jim come in here and he is wearing pants today. Don't worry. So I don't think that joke aged very well, but this is what that's the first thing that this reminded me of. So we're back here, our first webinar in 4 years with a kind of a unique topic. So we're glad to have you with us. And basically, we're going to introduce the concept of dinner table and kind of copy what we did in our live seminar last month at the office. So I will, without further ado, I will share my screen and we can begin. How's that look, guys?
Looks good.
All right.
Yeah, good.
All right. Well, before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, introduce the team here. You have everyone here in the image. Preston, Jim, and myself are the CFPs on the team. And Gwen, Connie, and Patty. Patty, the operations manager, in the back office here, making sure that everything runs smoothly here at Peak. And you see a new logo for us here. It's our 10-year anniversary at Peak Wealth Management. We're managing over $350 million for our clients. And then also the Schwab logo. Schwab is probably our number one strategic partner because that's where we hold all of your client money. And so we like to start with why. If you're familiar with the Simon Sinek Start with Why book and concept, I think it applies to what we all do, but also to this presentation in particular. So start with why. Why do I do what I do? For me, when I was a kid, I would see and listen and watch my dad and my mother talking about money. My dad would always complain about the bills, and he had a good job, so it was always confusing to me. If you have a good job, why are we always complaining about money? And I thought to myself, I never want to be in that position. So here I am as a CFP talking about money with our clients every day. And really, I see my why. Why do I do this? Is to try and help you not be in a position like him, where he sadly only had a few years of retirement before he passed away. So I'm here to try and help you not be in that position so you can retire with confidence. Jim, do you want to share your why?
Sure. I would say that my why also goes back to growing up, and family, and I was a young kid and getting excited and learning about money from my dad, learning how to save money, learning how to invest money, learning how to pick stocks and mutual funds and all these different things, and I thought it was great. But unfortunately, my dad got sick at a young age, and he ended up passing away at the age of 55. And that left my mom, who is now a young widow, with a lot of financial questions, and I thought that I should know the answers, right? I've been talking about stocks with my dad for years, but in reality is we didn't talk about financial planning, and I didn't know some of those important things that she needed to be considering. So as my career kind of evolved and I decided to make financial planning my career, it was in large part because I wanted to help people that were like my mom, who had big decisions to make and didn't know where to turn, didn't know where to go to get good advice that was in their best interest and not, some sales guys commission's best interest. So that was always a really important thing as to why I got into business to do what I do.
And Preston, how do you think about money? And what did your parents teach you about money?
I mean, the biggest lessons I remember from growing up is, saving and avoiding credit card debt. That was something that was big when I was growing up, as a lot of people started going into credit card debt. And not that I necessarily personally knew anyone, or at least knew that they were in serious credit card debt, but my parents always told me, do not use credit cards. They are not your friend. So that was a big impact on me.
And so we're starting with this concept because, as we all mentioned, there's something about our parents and for Jim and I, why do we do what we do? It comes back to our parents. So think about for yourself, what did you learn from your parents about money? What did they teach you? And oftentimes we'll follow right in with the way that they worked, or we can rebel against the way that they operated. And an example that I like to use is the Sam Bernstein law firm, right? Those kids fell right in line, right? They followed dad, right? Hook, line, and sinker, right to law school and right to the family business. So they kind of fell right in line. Whereas for me, it was more like, well, I don't want to be like that. So, you know, don't uh, don't take that for granted. Think about how did your parents make an imprint on your money personality?
Yeah,
All right.
I think that's an important thing to acknowledge because whether intended or not intended, we all picked up and learned things from our parents. You know, I remember growing up in a house where it was save, it was work, it was save, it was put it away, it was invested, and there was never an opportunity to like take it out and spend it. So as I kind of reflect back on my life and where I am today, and sometimes it's hard to bring out that wallet and pay for whatever because of those lessons learned as a kid. So it's important to acknowledge maybe your money habits and why you think the way that you do.
Indeed. Preston, take it away.
Yeah, so as the one advisor here who doesn't have any kids of his own, naturally I'm going to talk about imagining a world about children. So the whole dinner table concept is about imagining these three things where really we're just focusing on creating kids who go out into the world and they want to provide value. They want to give things to other people and help other people out rather than what we see a lot today, which is the new generation going out and expecting that the world is going to give them things and believing that they deserve things without having done it without having done any work or providing any real value in order to then receive those things and really just want to create children who are going to go in the world and be problem solvers and know how to solve problems and know how to think critically rather than, again, having this sort of learned helplessness and expecting things be done for them.
Very good. So, how did Dinner Table come to be? So, Scott Donnell is the founder of Dinner Table, the organization, and basically they did a study with over 100 successful families, trying to figure out what was the common thread, what's the common denominator to set up your children for success and deal with things like we were talking about entitlement and complaining and scarcity mindset. Oftentimes I find myself suffering from a scarcity mindset, and I need to be kind of reminded to have that abundance mindset and glass half full, glass half empty. And it's amazing when you just change your mindset and remind yourself how rewarding that can be. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about your kids adding in value inside the house, and then learning how to add value outside the house, which is really how you level up. And the concept of problem solving. If you can't solve problems, how far are you going to make it? Okay. If you can, you know, figure things out, that going back to add value, if if you can figure things out, you're basically adding value for yourself and others. And for others is the key. So I really want to teach my kids how to figure things out, how to solve problems, and this really gives us a good framework for doing that. I see kids going online, Facebook and TikTok and Twitter, especially right now after the election, right? People are going online and complaining, and it's like their complaint is their currency because now they're getting attention. But it's really negative attention, in my opinion. So that's not the currency that we want. The currency that we want is value. People adding value. And so this is the war on entitlement. And our framework here that we're going to talk about today is how we're going to break these trends. And we're going to follow Scott's lead, if you will. So, Jim, the agenda.
Yeah, so how do we do all these things, right? In theory, all this sounds great, but how do we do it? So a couple things that we need to talk about is value creation. Nick has already mentioned that, but how do we create value? How do we teach the kids how to be a valuable member of society? The home economy, what does that mean? How does that incorporate into what we're trying to do here? And then implementation tool and community. So we can have these great ideas, this great home economy, but how do we keep track of it? How do we stay on task? How do we engage the kids? So we're going to talk about a tool that you have to use, and then heritage over inheritance. So think about leaving your kids a legacy, not of a, a big inherited IRA or a big, investment account of some sort, but the heritage of you taught them how to create value to this world. You taught them how to be a hard worker, to be a problem solver, and to do these things, and just believing that that's the type of legacy that we really want to leave for our families.
Inheritance is okay too, but this concept is heritage.
Yeah, we want to teach the skills as well, so that when they do inherit money, they know what to do with it, and they know how to be a valuable member of society. So why is value creation so important? Creating value is about making a meaningful contribution to the world around you, not solely focusing on yourself and your own gain, but other people, and how do you add value to their lives as well. This incorporates us learning to deal with challenges, but also becoming resilient and self-reliant people. We think those are all really important. Um, this value creation that we're talking a lot about helps equip children to have the skills they need to avoid, some of these pitfalls that we see in life, like failure to launch and, this entitlement that we've already talked so much about.
Jim, did you see
So,
that movie Failure to Launch with Matthew McConaughey?
yeah, yeah, it was
The
a
guy's
perfect
got it made,
example,
right?
right? Just living in the basement and,
Yeah. I think
but
his dad was Terry Bradshaw was the dad in that movie.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, just so this idea of value creation is teaching our kids the skills so that they have the confidence to go out into this world and to be successful.
All right, so the value creation cycle. We're gonna go through some healthy struggles examples in a moment, but it's really this vicious cycle, if you will. And imagine, you have a struggle where whether it's, um, you know, a 5-year-old putting on their socks, or learning how to do the dishes, or learning how to do laundry, things that you have to learn how to do, right? But then you become capable. It doesn't take long before washing dishes is easy. We don't like it, but it's easy, right? We gain confidence in our skills. We've done it. We've figured it out. We're gaining confidence, and now we can do it without being asked, which is creating value for others. Hey, if my 7-year-old is going to clear the table, she's creating value for me, and I'm going to appreciate that, right? And so that's what we're going for here. And so what we're going to do is go through some examples here of healthy struggles. Let's see, who's going to do this one? Jim and Preston.
The one thing I'll let you give a couple examples, Preston, but the one thing why I think that concept is such a great idea is because it helps teach us that, the first time you do something is typically hard, right? But then you gain confidence in it, you learn how to do it. And what happens the next time a completely different healthy struggle comes up, you now gain that confidence again to not be afraid to tackle that problem, to not be afraid to figure out how to solve it. So
Yeah, you were
um,
talking about Brett lifting weights.
yeah, I mean that's actually a good example. He likes sports, and he as the older he gets, he's in middle school now. The older he gets, he was always kind of the biggest kid, but now other kids are catching up. And I said, listen, if you want to keep being one of the best players, you got to keep, start working on stuff. You got to work out a little bit. You got to keep practicing. And he always, it's hard. I don't want to do it. I'll be tired. Like he didn't want to do it. He just wanted to play in the game. But eventually, I was able to get him to go and visit a trainer that my girls had seen a little bit. I said, just try it one time, buddy. Check it out, see how it goes. And he went, and guess what? It was hard, but also he kind of liked it. And after going once or twice, he started feeling like I'm getting stronger and I'm getting faster and I can jump higher. Like he can touch the rim now, and he thinks that's pretty cool. And I'm
Wow.
like, every time he does it, I try to bring it back to, yeah, remember, it's because you decided to get out there and you decided to work hard, and it's paying off for you. You're getting rewarded for that hard work.
Jim, can you still touch the rim? That's what I'm really wondering here.
Honestly, I'm afraid to try. I think I'll pull something on the way down. So I'll let you know if I give it a shot.
Yeah, this reminds me of when I was like graduating high school and my after my first year in college, working for Barnhart and Son and working in the sewers. So one of those years, we were actually down in the sewers, in the mess, okay? And it was very unpleasant, very difficult. It was maybe an unhealthy struggle because of the hepatitis, down there in the sewers. But what it taught us, specifically my friends from high school, Chris and Eddie, we went through that together, right? And we came out okay. But most of the other kids quit. So it was a struggle that we went through together, and it was a common bond that really stands today. But what I'm getting at is, I'll credit Andrew Huberman, who I heard this on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple months ago. Andrew said, "Doing hard things makes hard things easier to do." So whether you're lifting weights, whether you're doing the dishes, whether you're working construction in the sewers, right? We now have those calluses, and we can have the confidence that whatever someone throws at us, we can get it done. So whether you're just a kid and you're learning how to do easy stuff, or an adult going through the most difficult things, the lesson kind of is the same. So Preston, you have a long list there. In fact, we can send out this list to everyone who's signed up. So we'll have this list for you later, but Preston's going to highlight a few right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We've got a list of 90 healthy struggles, which we can send to anyone if they'd like to take a look at it. But in going through the list, I was just looking at some things that I experienced in my childhood that I wanted to point out. So the first one is the idea of delayed versus instant gratification and how to practice it at home. And so the memory I've got of that is actually, a very important memory to me and something I can remember like it was yesterday, even though I'm decades removed from it. But it was when I was a kid, there was a new Madden video game coming out, and I was like, I really want this game. And my parents were like, okay, how are you going to get it? It's on you. And so I did work around the house. I did like back at my old house, we had this old apple tree in the backyard that would drop crab apples all the time. And so I got paid 1 penny for every crab apple I picked up. So I picked up, thousands of them and did other things for people to make money. And I remember how proud and excited I was the day I got the game, even though, I was probably 4 or 5 months removed from when it initially came out. So I didn't get it right in that moment, but I was so excited and proud of the work I'd done to get it when I did. The next one is selling yourself, selling ideas, and selling to others. And my memory with that one is, again, when I was a kid, I played travel baseball and we had a tournament coming up and it was out of state. And as a team, we were raising money for the tournament. But what I did personally is I printed out a flyer and my dad drove me house to house. He didn't go up to the house with me. He just kind of dropped me off and said, "Hey, this is on you. Do what you got to do." And so I put a flyer at every house in the neighborhood, and the flyer said, "Hey, I'm coming back a week from today. My name's Preston Gee. I'm raising money for this cause for the baseball tournament. If you have any can returns that you just want to get rid of, I'd be happy to take them off your hands and I'll go return them for you." And then the next week, I went back around to the whole neighborhood and talked to quite a few of the people who had set cans aside for me, and they said, "This is a fantastic thing you're doing. I believe in it. Go ahead and take the cans." And it helped raise money for the team that year. And then the last one is finding your way home from anywhere and how to use a map. So that's something I did as a kid. It started out when I was really little. We would go to my grandparents' house, and then on the way home, my mom would say, "Okay, Preston, you're directing us. Where do I need to go?" And so I'm 4 or 5 years old in the back seat saying, "Turn left here, go straight through the light," all that. And if I made a mistake, she'd let me make the mistake until it got to a certain point, and she was like, "Okay, we got to turn this thing around." But eventually, after doing that a couple times and going other places too, and having her practice me do that, I learned a really good sense of direction. And now, pretty much wherever I am, I know where I need to go, and I've got a sense of where am I in the world. And I think it was really valuable to me.
Great. Any others that you want to share?
No, I mean, there's 87 others, so we could spend all day talking about it.
All right. So, Jim, we're on to, um,
I think
I
we're
went
talking about the
backwards.
home economy now.
Yeah, I went backwards. Sorry. Home economy.
So, yep. No, that's a couple good examples, Preston, but home economy. So this is a concept that we think is really the best way for kids to learn. We think they learn through real life. We think they learn through, having fun and having experiences rather than just us lecturing them. So what is the home economy? Basically the concept here is it allows us to duplicate real life in the home. Giving our kids a job, giving them expenses, giving them, responsibility and things that they need to do. Preston had a couple of good healthy struggles that he mentioned, right? He had a problem. He had to figure out how to solve it. The home economy gives us the framework for doing that. Some people talk a lot about allowance and just giving our kids money. That'll teach them how to be responsible with it. We don't think that's a great way to teach them. We think that kind of feeds into entitlement, and I wanted that video game, and you know what, I'll just wait till next week till my next allowance comes in. Um, we don't think that it creates that a kid that is creating value. We don't think it allows them to be creative. It allows them to learn how to work and to delay gratification and do those things. So the home economy, using healthy struggles through the home economy is kind of a low consequence way to begin teaching kids really important lessons.
Yeah, there's a book that we read a long time ago when we had little kids, when our oldest were little, Parenting with Love and Logic. They would talk about having, no consequence lessons. So if something goes wrong or if there's a failure, it's inside the house. And so there is no consequence. You're not going to jail, right? Where if you make a mistake or if you beat up your little brother, right? You're going to have consequences in the house, but there's no outside the house consequences. And so parenting with love and logic has some similarities with what we're talking about with the dinner table concept. And back on allowance, allowance is like socialism, all right? It's like entitlement. It's like, well, you just show up, don't have to do anything, and you get a paycheck. Well, who gives you a paycheck for nothing, right? That doesn't exist, right? So we think that allowance is not the key. And next, we're going to get into the three E's. And there is a difference between expectations and allowance.
Yeah, I think the three E's are really the key to making the home economy work. Some people talk about, everybody's at one point or another thought about chores, and I'll make my kid do chores, and that's how I'll pay them. Well, then other people will say to that, well, they just live in my house. They should have certain responsibilities as well. So kind of yes to all. We agree with all of that. So we think that expectations are a really important part of this home economy. And the fact that you live in the house doesn't mean you get paid to do every little thing. There's certain things that you do just because you live in that house and because you're a member of that family. Examples of this can be like keeping your room clean or making your bed in the morning or clearing your dishes from the sink. You're not going to get paid for doing those things. Those are just expectations because you live in this house, but they're important things that need to be done. And then the next E is expenses. And I kind of think this is the key to making the home economy work. If there are no expenses, you can give your kid money all day long and eventually they lose incentive because they just have money, but they don't have anything to do with it. So expenses is looking for opportunities to basically charge the kids for things. It can be, like we've talked about with games or a trip or a toy or something that they want. Now they now have that responsibility to pay for that. Preston gave a good example of that earlier with a video game. But also my kids are a little bit older. So like an example of what I thought about for them was they need to have expenses so that they're motivated to do this work and to do these things. So, my girls, they have cell phones and they want to use them. Well, I could either charge them for the cell phone or what I chose to do was charge them for the usage because I was a little bit more concerned with how much time they would spend on it. So I said, here's your phone, but it's $1 an hour. Every time you're on your phone, you're scrolling, you're doing whatever, it's $1 an hour. So the thinking behind it is coming up with these things that they're now responsible to pay for so that they now have some motivation and they feel some pain about working and needing to earn money.
Yeah,
And
Jim, if you're just stacking up those dollars, right? You think, oh, I already have a bunch of money. What do I need to continue growing these dollars for?
right.
But if you have that expense, Jack, our middle son, he just had his first homecoming dance. And
Hmm.
so we had to get a suit. I decided to cover the suit, but when it was time to take his date out for dinner, my wife was like, make sure you give Jack the credit card for the dinner. And I was like, I don't think so. I think Jack's been working and he's got some money, and it's up to him to spend some of that money on his dinner for him and his date. So you don't have to have the kid pay for everything, but we decided in this case, the suit was going to be a lot more expensive than the dinner, so we covered that for him. But Jim, what about what Scott Donnell talks about with the birthday party gift for a little kid?
Yeah, that's another great example is that can be an expense that you assign to your kid. Like, hey, little Timmy invited you to the birthday party. That's great. You need to take a present, right? Well, putting that responsibility on them to pay for that birthday present. Um, I think it's a really awesome opportunity for the kid to learn, and they take so much more ownership in it. The examples they give are talking about the excitement that a kid has when they bring a present to their friend that they paid for, that they use their money on to buy for them, and just having that excitement about giving that gift as opposed to just this is what my mom picked up at the store for me.
Yeah, that's a great example. Seeing the excitement in the kid's eyes who's giving the gift because they picked it out. They saved the money. They worked for it versus
Mhm.
mom. Yeah, here, this is from my mom, right?
Right. I don't
All
even know
right.
what it is. Yeah.
And Jim, the fun part, the extra pay, the gigs.
Yeah, is the third E is part of the home economy is the extra pay. And once they start getting the concept around certain things are expected, they also have expenses, which is why they need to earn money, but then extra, like at some point they want to do more than just pay the bills, right? They want to have extra money to do fun stuff. So kind of learning that concept of the more that I do, the more that I earn, the more opportunity it allows me to do extra fun things.
Okay, so now we're gonna get to our our gigs. Okay.
Yeah, gigs are kind of what makes the whole thing work, right? Now that we've assigned expenses to our kids, how are they gonna pay for the stuff? Whether it's stuff that they want, like the video game, our example here says, how will I pay for the new video game? Or how are we gonna pay to for my cell phone? How am I gonna pay for that birthday present? And it is gigs. So looking for opportunities to give our kids to earn money. And I think what most people immediately think about when they think of this is, well, I'll give, chores, right? Let pay the kid to vacuum the floor, to wash the windows, to clean the bathroom. And these are all good ideas and good opportunities. But what I like about this program is it greatly expands that and it challenges us as parents to be creative and to think of other things that are designed to basically reinforce good behavior and good habits for kids. So there's your traditional gigs, but then also, looking into things that they call like brain gigs or community gigs is ways to earn this money to pay these bills and to cover these expenses and to do the fun extra stuff.
All right, so Preston, you have the gig list, right? Let's highlight some for the fans out there.
Yeah, so this really can go to the next slide too, but there's a ton of great gig ideas that are out there, and it doesn't just have to be, I mean, there are great gigs that are chores, like I mean, it's fall right now, so help rake the leaves would be a great idea. But it can also be like learning new skills that they're going to need in their lifetime. So, one that I was just thinking of because I've been having some car troubles lately is learning how to do car maintenance, routine things that people should know how to do to take care of their car. I suck with my car, honestly. I really don't know much about the maintenance side of it, which I'm paying for right now, but as a kid, if you learn how to do these maintenance things, and as a parent, you can provide the gig as the incentive to go learn how to do something with the car, how to provide maintenance on the car. That's a great idea. There can also be brain gigs where you're, reading an educational book, listening to a podcast, just really enhancing your knowledge base. And the gig is the incentive for the kid to go out and do that, but then it pays off later in life as they've started to learn these things.
So do you want to give any examples from the gig list here, Preston?
I actually don't have the list in front of me.
Okay, well, let me tell my story then. Okay. Because when we started this program with Quinn, who's a 7-year-old, she's in second grade, and we started this program using the app, which we're going to go through in a minute. We started talking about what are the expectations. Remember the three E's. So there's the expected list, which is like make your bed, clean your room, clear the table, clear your dishes, stuff like that. And those are action gigs. And she's only 7, so we haven't done any brain gigs with her yet. But we have action gigs beyond the expected stuff, right? Like feed the dog, take the dog for a walk, rake the leaves, stuff like that, water the lawn. We had a patch where we were trying to grow more grass, and so that was her job to water that. And so these are the action gigs, okay? So here's the story with her. She makes a couple bucks inside the house, and then I said, Quinn, why don't you go outside and rake up some leaves in the front yard? And so she said, okay, I'll go do that right now. And then she came in a few minutes later and she said, Dad, Mr. John next door, he has leaves in his yard too. Can I go rake those? And I said, well, go ask him first. But yeah, that sounds great. So she raked up Mr. John's leaves and he paid her $5. Then she came running inside the house. Dad, Mr. John gave me $5. And I thought, wow, isn't that great? We're seeing this work already. It was like the second day, She's already in the community doing community gigs because the wheels started turning, right? She's doing work in the house. She's asking, can I do more work in the house? Yes, go outside and do that job. Then she's outside doing the job and realizes that other people need that work done for them as well. And I was like, yes, because I could see that it was working for her. And, this is, a month or two ago since we started. And where we are now with the gigs, sometimes she's like, I don't want to, right? Like, I kind of like Jim was saying, I've already got enough money, right? So the next point for us driving it home is to add in those expenses for her. But she is definitely creating value. She's doing what's expected, creating value in the house and creating value outside the house. So when you're tucking her in at night, we can ask her, what value did you create for people today? And it's really special.
I think that's a great example, Nick. And then one other thing just to add to that is I think as a parents, I think it's a great opportunity, like we kind of said earlier, to reinforce good behavior. For us, it was my kids are older. I feel like they should be able to acknowledge certain things that need to be done and do them without being told. So like we put an incentive on there and says if you do some of these things without being told, you'll get double pay on this one. And
I
just
love it.
looking for things like that, or homework, right? I don't want to raise procrastinators. So I said, if you get your homework done before 8 o'clock, that can be a gig. Like I know you have to do your homework, but trying to wrap it around a good behavior and say, I want your homework to be done by this time. And if it is, that's something that you can be rewarded for and paid for.
Excellent. All right. So now, once we have some money, what are we going to do with it, Jim?
Yeah, that's another thing that we like so much about this program is it just gives us so many opportunities to teach things, right? So we've gone through the home economy and expenses and gigs to earn money, but now they have this money. What do they do with it? So this gives a great opportunity to teach about saving, spending, and sharing. It's a concept that we love and we talk a lot about. We with our clients even today, we talk a lot about saving their money and their expense tracking and doing all these things. And this just helps kids form good habits around what is the right amount? What should I be saving? What can I use to spend? And what about sharing or giving? Is there a place, to teach that at this young age and to start learning and reinforcing those behaviors? So once this is kind of coming full circle, just reinforcing these things and talking about this is a great opportunity to talk about a good savings habit. How much should we save of what we make? How much should we plan to give? And then how much do we have available still to spend on the things that we want?
So in my story with Quinn, when we started talking about this concept of sharing, I was really proud of her. She really had a heartwarming answer. I said, Quinn, some of this money we want to save and invest. Some of the money you're going to be spending on things that you need, that you're responsible for. And some of this money we're going to give it away to people that are in need. And she said, oh. And then she said, well, when I get $30, I'm going to give $10 to three different families that are in need. And I thought, wow, what a what a tender heart she has.
Mhm.
And you know, I don't know what I would have said when I was 7. I like the idea that I could be thinking the same way as her, but the brain, the wheels were turning for her, and I was happy to hear that answer. So, yes, we want to teach our kids how to help others and be charitable and share with others. So, next up, the idea is how do we track all of this? What's the delivery mechanism? How do we do it? How do we tie it all together? And it's the dinner table app. So this is a free app. There's nothing that you have to pay. Basically, you download it from the App Store and you set yourself up as the parent. You set up the kid with their own login if they have a phone or an iPad. What we did is we set up Quinn. She has an iPad where she watches, Disney and YouTube Kids and stuff. So we set her up with the app so she knows how to log in. And then, so as the parent, you create the gigs that are available to them and you get to name the price. As the kid, you log in and you see what's available, what work is available to be done. And when the work is done, you check the box and then it rings the register for you. So then they have, money that they can see in their quote unquote account. It's not a real account. It's just keeps track of the money that you owe them for getting the gig done. So once they have the money then in the account, then you can as a parent decide what percentage of that money is going to be spent, what percentage of the money is going to be saved, and what percentage is going to be shared with others. And so that it shows you right in the app how much they have available for all three of these buckets, so to speak. So it's really fantastic. And what I'm going to do is share here. Let's see if I can do this right. I'm going to share. Here we go. So if you can see my screen here, guys.
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So this is kind of a screenshot inside the app. So over here we have Quinn. It says Gravy Stack, but it's the dinner table app. And so she has it shows you one week at a time. And so we've created these gigs for Quinn. Actually, let me back up and say, here's her expected list. Make bed, put away clothes, clean room, shower, brush, put away toys, clean dishes. So those things need to be done as expected, like the classic allowance type stuff. But down here, but there is no allowance for it, right? That's what's expected of you to live in the house for free. And coming down here, we have the gigs. So she's taking piano lessons. So she can, spend time playing an instrument. She can feed the dog up to twice a day, feed the pet again, walk the dog, water the grass, clean your room, vacuum the car, check tire pressure, read for an extra 15 minutes, water the lawn, pick up the leaves. And so all of these things are available, and some are available every day, some are available once a week, and you can change the price. Like Jim said, you can give double pay for the initiative that they're showing. And if you don't like the app, this is what it looks like if you print it out on a PDF. You can, just print it out on a piece of paper and keep it in the kitchen or put it on the fridge, whatever you want to do. And when the kid does the work, then they check the box and then you can pay out the money. But the app, I think, works so much better because uh, it it's very user friendly and has a good user interface. So this screen on the right here, This is a screenshot from the app, and I haven't done a very good job with the buckets with the jars, but you can see this is the default where the save bucket, she's responsible for saving 30% of her gig money. She's able to spend 60% of the gig money, and also is required to say to give away and share with others 10% of her gig money. And this is just what it comes up as default, so you can edit those percentages any which way that you'd like. So what do you guys think about this? What's the highlight for you?
I think it's great to have that visual. I think it's great for kids to be able to see how much opportunity they have, to realize they can check a box every day. I think that's really helpful. And even in terms of having a big list for them, because sometimes they're like, I don't know what to do to make money. Like, so let's put a big list together where we can see a lot of different options, a lot of different choices. Something else that I'll add to it that I thought was good. Again, my kids were a little bit older than Quinn, but like the expected list. Well, I kind of realized at some point, like, what's to keep them from actually doing those or from not doing them, right? It's expected, but what's the consequence if I don't make my bed? What's the consequence if I don't put away my clothes? So I tried to take it one step further and said, well, these are your expected items to do. And if they're not done, again, trying to keep it with a real world feel, if you didn't make your bed, you didn't pick up your room, well, then you just hired a maid, right? And now you got to pay myself or mom to go in and pick up your room and make your bed. So then it created an expense out of that expected list, just as trying to think about ways to really make the kids kind of buy into it.
That's fantastic. I love it.
One thing I actually really like is on that right side, the default save is 30%. If you can get a kid starting from a young age to just think 30% of my income is saved every time, and that translates into when they're adult, that goes right into financial planning and financial literacy and making sure they're on track for a good retirement.
Preston, it reminds me of the peak income 360 formula. 30%, you'd be knocking it out of the park,
Oh yeah.
pretty much guaranteeing a successful retirement. Okay, back to the slides here. Okay, I skipped over dinner table community. So the dinner table community is basically like think of it like a Facebook group. So it's a free website where you can come in and share thoughts and ideas, stories, share wins, share frustrations with other parents who are trying to fight the war on entitlement alongside you. And, we know that when people come together to form a community, right, we can really take it to the next level where 1 + 1 = 3. So the dinner table community is something that is available to everyone for free as well. Okay, so now here we are talking about pay to a point. So, you know, when we think about entitlement, this comes up here. And, it reminds me of Jim, we did a podcast on this. I don't know if it's been published yet. I can't remember, but there's this Twitter post going or no, a Reddit post going around where the guy found his dad's brokerage account and it had a lot of money in it and he was feeling frustrated that the dad wasn't giving him money. Like, why am I struggling so much if my dad has $10 million? Well,
Mhm.
maybe the dad is part of the dinner table concept, right?
Right.
Because it's not about let me just give all this money to my kid because I've got a lot. This is my money, right? I can give it to him if I want, but maybe I don't, maybe I'm not seeing them reach the certain milestones where I'd like to make gifts. So, anyway, with little kids, we talk about paying to a point, whether it's that birthday present or whether it's a video game or their first car or college. Everyone has their own philosophy, but the dinner table philosophy would be to pay to a point where we're helping out, but not paying for everything, right? Like a lot of times people would talk about a car when I turn 16. Think, well, I'll give you matching contributions. You can work and save money, and we can match that, and then we can go find a reasonable car. Okay, that's a good example. The same thing for college. As long as you hit a certain GPA, we'll contribute, or as long as you continue to work, we'll pay for it, or whatever, paying to a point, but just not a free ride, because that doesn't teach you anything. And so, Jim, what do we talk about with I love you gifts versus a coasting gift? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to mention because it's easy. Some people might listen to what we're saying and say, oh, my kid has to buy everything now for the rest of their life. They never get any, they never get anything. But that's not how we look at it. The I love you gift is like you still love your kids, you still love your family, you still want to give them things, and that's fine. But I think it's kind of evaluating that as versus a coasting gift, right? Is it an enabling gift? Are we giving them something that's allowing them to coast? It's allowing them to not have to work, to have to find gigs, and to add, create value. So I think it's just important to kind of distinguish between what type of, what type of gift they're receiving and what the outcome of that will be.
And then heritage versus inheritance. We kind of talked about this on the first slide, basically. Um, we work with money, with people's money all day, every day. And people have different views on inheritance for sure. Like people who are older, they'll say, well, I really want to leave a nice inheritance for my legacy. Or we also hear, I can't take it with me, so, I want to die broke kind of a thing. But we hear it from the next generation as well. People, that are in their 40s and 50s, and they think, well, they mentioned to us, well, at some point I'll receive a nice inheritance. Okay. But do we want to build that into our financial plan? I think some people, it's in their head as that is part of my retirement plan. And it's difficult, for us to be put in that position because it's not really their money. But anyway, heritage. Okay. I think, having an inheritance is fine. I think it's a noble goal to have for me to want to have to pass on money to my children. But what could be more valuable would be passing on the heritage, right? Having teaching them how to add value so they can make their own money. Teaching them how to create value and having core values. To me, those things are very important. And when I think about my most important job, practically in life right now, is raising our kids to have those core values. Because, in the blink of an eye, they're 18 and they're gone. And I want my kids to be, you know, when they're in difficult positions, making tough choices, I want them to hear my voice, right, in their head with advice that I would give or advice that I had given that rings true to them in that moment. So that's part of how I think about heritage. And if the money's there, that's good. But if you have taught them along the way with systems like this, it's not a nice inheritance is not going to change their life, right? Because they're already going to be set up in a nice position. Scott Donnell says, if you follow these things from a young age, you could have a high school kid who's making $100,000 a year, and you're like, well, I don't know about that. But how many lawns does it take to mow to make 100 grand? You know, I'm just saying, it's doable. All right, any closing thoughts, guys, on on adding value creation, kid, allowances, gigs, the three E's.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll say is I just encourage people to give it a shot. It's not always easy at first, and your kids will resist, and they'll say, "Why do I have to do this?" and be frustrated by it. But I think that there's a lot of really great things that can be learned through doing this and through following these concepts. And I think it's the kind of things that that will stick with them forever. So I think it's I just encourage people to give it a shot and even join the community, hear what's working for other people, hear what's not. And I just think it's a really valuable project to undertake.
Yeah, and for me, the takeaway is, I mean, sort of the same, where you just have to ask what sort of citizen, what sort of person do we want to have put out into the world? And I think this can help mold our young people to be the right kind.
Okay, that's going to do it for our dinner table seminar webinar. Hope that you have a couple of gold nuggets that you're taking away. And the easiest thing to do is to just download the dinner table app and just get started. Just start giving it a try. Talk to your children about expectations and gigs, and just one step at a time. We're here to be a resource for you. You know, there's no cost for the dinner table program. So just jump right in and good luck. See ya.